In this video, we're going to talk about how to use the tool Brooder in order to attack various web services. Now, this video could also be titled Why All Passwords Should Be Secure, and we'll talk about exactly what that means about all passwords needing to be secured in just a moment. Now, Brooder is a tool that helps me to attack and somewhat brute force my way into various web services. So before we go too far into that, let's look at what our network is. So right now we are outside on this Windows 7 machine and we want to attack the internal network. Now we know from our reconnaissance that there is a firewall right here at 216.1.1.1 and it is port forwarding to this Windows 2003 server. So when I attack this firewall, I'm actually attacking this server. So let's take a look at that and see what that actually allows us to do. So here I am, I'm on the Windows 7 machine, and I'm going to start off by just opening up a command prompt. Now on this computer, I've gone ahead and I have installed a couple of tools. One of them is simply Nmap. So if I run Nmap without any switches against that IP address, what it's going to do is it's just going to scan the IP address for valid ports. And we can see there are 5 ports being listed as open here. FTP, Telnet, SMTP, HTTP, and POP3. So basically I have 5 different services that are available from this company that I can possibly attack. Alright, well, let's check out the Brooder service then, or the Brooder application. Brooder is a Windows application. It's installed here on this desktop. There's obviously Linux-based versions that you can run as well. Probably, a Python script of some sort. Brooder in and of itself, at least as of last time I looked, was a Windows-only tool. But the configuration is fairly simple. So we see we've got some connection options. So what is our target? Our target in this case is 216.1.1.1. And then what is the protocol we want to attack? Now, looking at the protocols we have available to us, we have FTP, Telnet, SMTP, HTTP, and POP3. Let's see, normally SMTP and HTTP don't necessarily require authentication. They may, but they may not. FTP and Telnet almost always require authentication to some degree, and then POP3 can require authentication. So I probably want to target one of those 3. In this case, I'm going to target FTP, and I'll show you why in a few minutes. But we can look through here all the various protocols that we can start attacking with Brooder. We do have HTTP, IMAP, MSSQL, SMB, SNMP, and so on. But we're going to target FTP just because it's a very simple protocol for us to attack. We can then choose what user we want to attack it with. Now, we know from our reconnaissance that this is a Windows server machine. So on Windows server machines, they almost always have administrator accounts. It's not a good practice to leave the administrator account named administrator, but it happens quite a bit. Beyond that, we also have the password options, see combo, dictionary, brute force. I'm actually going to choose a dictionary option. So we choose browse and we open up the word list. Just out of curiosity, let's open this file. And we'll see it is quite literally a list of passwords. It's sometimes referred to as a dictionary or a password list. And let's see, there are about 306,000 different records in here. So 300,000 different passwords available for us to use here. So I'm going to use that. And before I click start, I know one of the things you're thinking about, hey, this is a Windows machine. There are some policies that we should have around our Windows machines with regards to passwords, such as, 3 to 5 failed attempts. And then within 5 to 15 minutes. And if you get more than 3 to 5 failed attempts within your 5 to 15 minute range, then it should be locked the account for 15 to 30 minutes, or whatever your policy is. These ranges are pretty common from what I've seen in most organizations. So normally, what would happen is if I tried to log in as this administrator account multiple times within that 5 or 15 minute window frame, whatever's defined, it could start locking out the account, causing a whole lot of bad things to happen for me as the attacker. There are ways around this. For instance, over here on the right hand side, we have under miscellaneous options, we have how many connections we want to attempt. Right now it's set to 5. Maybe 5 is enough to lock it out, so I want it to go to 4. Move it back to 5 just in case. Wait for each try. How long should it wait before it tries a different password? If it locks out after 5 attempts, within 5 attempts in 5 minutes, and that means I want to attempt 1 password per minute, so that would be 60,000 milliseconds, I believe. So that means each attempt would take 1 minute before I would try again. I'm actually going to set this to 0. In this particular case, however, that's not the situation, and we'll look a little bit further into that. But let's go ahead and hit start. So what it's doing right now is it's quite literally doing exactly like you would see on a movie. It's trying various passwords against this account, and it's trying it with the administrator password. And you can see administrator user, and you can see all the various passwords that it's testing. Now, this is probably not very ideal from a security standpoint. It should be pretty obvious to the end user that something's happening. The fact that it says about 1,500 passwords are being tested every single second, and if you're looking for it, it is fairly obvious. I'm right here. I'm on the other end of that connection right now. I'm on the server, and the first question would come to mind of where would I find those events? Where would I find that somebody's trying to log in? And you probably are thinking about coming up to the event viewer because there's a security log in here. And if we filter this and we get rid of these success audits and information, so we want to just see warnings, pretty quickly we notice there's no warnings, there's no alerts in here, there's no logging of the fact that this password is, or this login is being attempted thousands of times every second. And it kind of has to do with the service that we're attacking. We're attacking FTP on a Microsoft Windows machine, which doesn't necessarily log into the security event log. It logs elsewhere, at least on this version of Windows. Specifically, it logs into the Windows System 32 log files directory, and then since it's FTP, it's MSFTP SVC. And right here we can see the log file that I'm generating. If I open that up, then we can start saying, here we go. The user administrator is being attempted tons of times, thousands of times. And as you can see, it's all happening within the same second. In fact, if I keep paging down here, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. I've hit page down 20 times and I still haven't moved another second in the time column there. There we go. I held it down and it finally went from 12 seconds to 13 seconds. That's how many times we're trying these passwords. And you can see, yes, it's all coming from one IP address. Any sane systems administrator should be looking at this and saying something is wrong. But that's the thing with the FTP service. In this case, the log file's hidden. We don't necessarily know where it is unless you know to look for it. And unless you know something's going on, you're not going to be looking at it anyway. So it's an attack. It's a very obvious attack, but people don't necessarily know what's going on. So as a security engineer, this is probably where you want to start looking at the idea of a SIEM, security event information management tool. I believe it may be SIEM. Google it, let me know. So one of those collects the logs from all the systems and puts them into one place, and then alerts you when it sees weird things like this happening. The great thing about SIEMs is you don't necessarily have to know how to use them. You can actually outsource them. quite well and quite inexpensively to a third party. They'll look at it all. They'll know what all those messages mean, and then they'll tell you when somebody's breaking into your environment. All right, so let's go back. Still going. It's almost 2 minutes here. Oh, it did finish. Okay. Took a little bit less than 2 minutes, and we can see that the service FTP username administrator password p@ssw0rd. So it found the password. Like I said, somewhat of a movie version of an attack. It literally just tried multiple passwords against the system. Now, in all reality, if we were doing something other than an FTP service in this case, it probably would have been caught, and probably would have been caught fairly quickly. So if I was actually to do this in the real world against a very legitimate environment, probably what I would do is, instead of changing out all of the passwords thousands of times a second, I would probably change the user thousands of times a second. What I mean by that, if I create a new file here, let's just create it right on the desktop, and we'll just call it users. What I would do is I would try to find all of the employees of the company. Chances are all the employees of the company have a common naming scheme. For instance, H. Simpson. So for Homer Simpson, it would be H. Simpson, H for first initial and then last name. M. Sislak. I have no idea how to spell that name. Barney Gumble, B. Gumble, and so on. So what I would do is I would try to find all the users of the company and hopefully find thousands of them so that I'd have thousands of users to attack. I'll just go ahead and save that as is. Only 3 users, I know, it's an example. In this case, I would then choose, instead of having an administrator, I would click Browse, take me to the desktop, and I would choose that users file. And now, instead of having all those word lists, because remember, there were thousands and thousands of words there, what I would do is I would try to find a password that is most likely going to be used by one of these people in the company. Let's say there's 10,000 people in the company. I have 10,000 users to attack. Chances are one of them has an easily guessed password. So all I have to do is find the easily guessed passwords. And where do I do that? Where do I find what easily guessed passwords are there? Google. I go to Google. Let's see. Most common passwords right there. CNN. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is the most commonly used password out there. Basically, what's happened is several companies have gone out and they've looked at various password databases that have been released online. And they've said, hey, this password right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, is the most commonly used one amongst all these password breaches that have happened. So what that means is we can now use that password 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 against all of these users. Well, let's try it out. Let's go to the testing view and click start. And what will happen is it will try 1, 2. That was way too quick. It tried the user 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 against all of those users. Max retry. Yeah. And obviously it didn't find any this time because, well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wasn't a valid password. But if I found what could be a possible password in that organization, that would be an excellent way in order to attack all of the users in that organization. And it's just that easy. Find the users, find the most likely used password in that environment. Hopefully you know some of their password policies. For instance, password policies may be a minimum 8 characters. If it's minimum 8 characters, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 won't work. It's probably going to be the next one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. So maybe along with minimum 8 characters, it has to be a mixture, or actually I guess the term would be complex passwords, which is 3 of the 4 mixes. Let's see, upper, lower, number, and symbol. In which case I then go back to Google and I look at that password list again and I say, okay, what is the most commonly used password that has upper, lower, number, and symbol, 3 of those 4 items, and then I would test that password against all the people in the company. The great thing is, as an attacker, this allows me the opportunity to pretty much go through your entire company and just find one user. Just find one password. Now, this tool is also useful for you as a security engineer because as a security engineer, you can follow through these same steps. You know the most commonly used passwords. You know all the users in your company. You can brute force your way through all of these passwords in a way that won't lock them out. You could actually set up a test environment where nothing will lock out the end users, just in order to brute force them to test to see if any of them have dictionary level passwords. At which point you can then alert them that they need to change their passwords because it's not a secure password setup. So there you go. How to use the tool Brooder in order to attack web services. We only attacked FTP, but we could have attacked any of these other systems as well, all depending on the environment we needed. So I hope this video has been helpful for you, and I look forward to seeing you